almost 2 years ago, we were sitting down on a actually quite different set. We were talking about the book that you had written, The Google Archipelago. And this is, basically October 2019. A lot has happened since. And I have to say, that book aged well, as they say.
Thank you.
But so what have you seen happen since then?
Well, I mean, there's just been this acceleration. We saw, of course, the increasing cancel culture, and then, this happening not only in institutions but online. This kind of digital gulagging became intensified. We saw, the increasing censorship over just about every official narrative that exists. We've seen the intensification of socialist policies. And we've seen, we also had an election controversy. We had, we've seen more polarization. It's even become more polarized now. And of course, with Corona, we've seen a lot of developments that have increased polarization, but also have increased censorship, have increased this digital gulagging of people. So, I mean, everything that I talked about in Google Archipelago just basically escalated.
Well, okay, so let's start with digital gulagging. What is that?
Well, it's, we know what the gulag is, so the digital gulag is merely the digital version of that, and that is the way that dissidents are disappeared, the way that they are erased, memory hold, and punished, and in fact taken out of the social realm, basically banished. And it's done through big tech, big digital tech, as I call them, social media, but also Google, and the whole panoply of digital actors. And they've even disappeared for a time, social media networks themselves. So this has gone on, and it's really escalated and accelerated. The digital gulagging is basically a means by which the big tech oligarchs get rid of very unfavorable people in their eyes.
And I suppose unfavorable opinions come with those people, right?
Opinions that are not sanctioned, in effect. I mean, these are dissident views. Dissident views are basically disappeared.
When we spoke last, you took some effort to explain, no, I'm not saying that this is like the physical gulag.
Right.
It's basically a strong analogy of sorts.
Right.
One thing that I noticed, it just occurred to me, was, one gentleman who has been canceled, like yourself and a number of others, was basically saying that his experience of this process was one, he felt like people were almost driving him towards a sort of suicidal ideation, like pushing you kind of like it's a lot more than just simply, making sure you can't work anymore.
Right. Yes. I mean, this is an attempt to actually destroy your entire social life, your social viability, and your connections. This happened to a musician who basically said very innocuous things, and his life was totally destroyed. He lost his recording contract. He lost most of his friends. He was attacked, bitterly online by, Twitter mobs and so on and so forth. So it can drive people to the edge. I mean, we're looking at social death, in effect, and that's a very devastating prospect for people.
I'm remembering a little bit about your experience at NYU.
Mm-hmm.
You described yourself as previously being, left of the Bolsheviks,
right,
so to speak.
Right.
And something changed somewhere along the way, and that prompted you to put, I think it was, retweet this His Majesty pronouns, right?
Right,
something
right.
like this, and that's when everything kind of blew up. But somewhere along the way, you stopped being left of the Bolsheviks.
Yeah.
And so how did that happen exactly?
Well, it really happened by virtue of what the left did to me. I mean, the way they came after me, the attacks that I underwent. I mean, I was viciously attacked, not only inside the academy but outside of it as well. Many people turned against me, like the whole left, not just like the communist left, not just the identity politics left. Even the group that I was affiliated with, a left communist group, they came after me and they basically said, you know, they put me in a sort of a cyber show trial and said that basically I was guilty of various crimes, thought crimes really, is what it came down to. So when I saw the character behind the ideology, when I saw beneath the thin veneer of egalitarian rhetoric, I saw nothing but totalitarianism. And it scared me, and I said, this is not something I want to be a part of. I can't be a part. I didn't know what I would be. I had no political home at this point. I just had enough. I said, I can't be affiliated with this, and I withdrew. And then I started to study, and then I started to read into the history of leftist political criminality, and this really deepened my understanding of what I was dealing with. And then I saw it all over the culture. It's strange how that happens, but I started seeing the signs of everything that I had encountered in the social order at large, that it was just permeating the society. And then I saw it happen to many other people. It just happened recently to Peter Boghossian. I mean, people like that have been put through the mill by this. And it's not isolated. These are not isolated cases. This is a cultural trend. It's it's now gotten harder, but it's a soft cultural revolution, and it has really changed the shape of our society.
Yeah, so soft cultural revolution.
Well, what happened in the Cultural Revolution? You had the abolition of the four olds. You had the attack on customs, on history, on basically tradition. Anything venerated previously is ripped down, and we've seen all the signs of that with the protests, so-called, and the destruction of basically historical memory, the attempt to eradicate vestiges of the past, to deem everything regressive or reactionary or racist or whatever. We've seen the same kind of call-out culture and cancel culture. Really, they are equivalents of struggle sessions that were undertaken during the Cultural Revolution. And then you also have the equivalent of autocritique or self-criticism that was underway, where you had to do this to yourself, self-denigration. You see people doing this all the time when they make a mistake, when they say something that's not acceptable, that's not sanctioned. So we see self-criticism or autocritique, we see struggle sessions, we see the destruction of monuments, including religious monuments and historical ones, and the red terror that's imposed on people through these mobs. They're sometimes Twitter mobs, but they simply resemble the Red Guards in so many ways. It's quite uncanny.
And it just all happens in the cyberspace instead of actually, physically, but I guess that's not entirely true.
It has real material consequences, because people are losing jobs, they're losing livelihoods, they're losing social credibility, they're losing all kinds of support structures, everything they relied on. As I said, it's a kind of social death, and it may start in the cybersphere, but it certainly goes beyond it.
Well, right, exactly. And as I was saying this, I was, of course, thinking about what's happening in Portland, where Peter Boghossian is from,
right,
and frankly many other places.
Right.
When we spoke last, you said that basically truth-based narratives or truth-telling was kind of the antidote to all this.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I kind of loved that, because we're kind of in the middle of trying to do that here, I think, as we speak.
Exactly.
But you have a new initiative that actually, as we're recording, went live today. I mean,
Yes.
you're basically starting a university.
An online education platform and system to counter, not just to counter, but to posit an alternative, a parallel institutional structure to the one that is, to the dominant one, to the legacy educational structures that we're dealing with today, which I think have been utterly infested with pernicious ideologies and are being run by zealots. And so what we want to do is to create an educational platform that has balance, that has truth-telling, that is not driven by ideology or propaganda,